Welcome to the Outsmart Burnout Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Zarya Rubin, a functional medicine doctor, an international speaker, and a burnout badass because I've been there myself. After walking away from my own high-stress medical career, I discovered how to break free from burnout to reclaim my passion, purpose, and joy. And now I'm here to help you do the same. From science-backed tips to time-saving hacks, and hopefully some aha moments that just might change your life. So sit back, relax, and let's do this. Today's guest is Holly Denton, a powerhouse of healing, transformation, and heart-centered leadership. With over a decade of experience as a qualified social worker, Holly has helped countless individuals navigate life's toughest challenges. Now, as a trauma-informed breathwork facilitator and life coach, she's on a mission to help people move beyond limiting identities, reconnect with their deepest sense of self-love, and realize their infinite potential. Holly's work weaves together emotional resilience, embodiment, and breath to raise human consciousness, and her vision for a more compassionate, awakened world is inspiring and much needed. Oh, welcome, Holly, to the show all the way from down under Australia. We're so lucky to have you, and I'm glad we can make it work today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I personally am a huge fan of breathwork, and I can't wait for our audience to learn more about it and discover it for themselves because I really do think it is quite a life-changing modality. So I'm really curious to hear your takes on it, how it relates to burnout, how we can use it to calm our nervous system. But first, you have had a lot of experience in a career in social work. What inspired this shift and this transition for you into coaching and breathwork?
Well, that is a good question. I guess for me, I went into social work because I was very young and I didn't really know what I wanted to do at uni, but I was very privileged to be sort of drawn into the world of social work. All I knew is I wanted to help people. I went to uni, I did all the right things. I followed the traditional pathway, got my degree, and then about 10, well, actually, it starts earlier, probably about 5 years into my career, I had a series of really big personal events. And I realized that even though I had gone into social work with, such a big, beautiful mission on my heart that I wanted to help other people, that I was really just bypassing a lot of my own stuff. And with these personal events that happened, it set me on a self-development journey. And then I've just been obsessed ever since with what sort of the self-development world, what helps us grow and achieve as humans. And then I felt really called to start my own business and start coaching people because oftentimes in the corporate clinical environments, we're very confined by the settings that we're working in. So yeah, I sort of blend, I would say, a mix of both my social work experience and training with the freedom and expansion that the coaching world brings. So yeah.
I love that. I can definitely relate. I think that it's such a familiar story. We have great intentions and we pursue certain paths, educational paths, career paths that are driven by a number of things that happen in our childhood, things that are beyond our control, just, desire to do good in the world and to help people, like you said. But then the path is not always straight and narrow, and it can twist and turn. It can lead us in a different direction. And yes, then often these personal things happen to us. And I don't know how comfortable you feel sharing any of it with us in terms of what inspired you to develop that passion for helping others connect with their true selves. And was that
Yeah.
really some of what happened with you?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We go down these sort of traditional paths and do all the right things, but then life kind of happens.
We tick the boxes, we go down the list, we get the gold stars.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, essentially, well, not essentially, but long story short, I was born with a cleft lip and palate and a missing left eye. And so I spent my whole childhood with this really strong belief that like it was never going to hold me back. You know, I was fine with it. I was all good. And while that worked for a long time, like going through surgeries and growing up looking really different, and having those sort of like self-esteem challenges, it really, this really strong identity of like, I'm okay, I'm strong, I'm confident, it's not going to hold me back.
It's not going to affect me in any way.
Yes, exactly. I'm fine. I'm fine. Everyone's got their problems, you know? And I think that came from a very well-meaning family that was always encouraging me that I was just as capable as everyone else. And so it was this sort of this really strong foundation of going, well, I have been through so much in my life and I'm okay. So I'm just like ready to go out there and help other people, as well as the fact that I just am obsessed with humans and connecting with humans and helping people and holding space for people. But then what happened was, early into my career, I actually lost my grandmother, who was my main, I would say, like my main attachment figure. And suddenly, this whole narrative of like, I'm okay, everything's fine, I'm just here to help other people, didn't work so well for me anymore, because I then spiraled into, I guess, a journey and experience with grief and loss. And that really challenged me professionally, because I was trying to sit there and hold space for other people whilst realizing that most of the time I've just been like bypassing my own feelings, my own experiences. And it just kind of spiraled from there, that I realized that, you know, we do attach a lot of our identity and our self-worth onto external people, external successes and things like that, to sometimes prove a deeper inner sense that maybe we're not as fine as we say we are, and that we need to have a bit of a look at our own emotions, our own identities, our own self-worth. Then through that journey of doing that for myself and realizing that the more that I do hold space for my own needs, my own story, my own identity, my own self-worth, the more impact I can actually have helping other people. So it was this beautiful growth between, even though the young Holly that was this like go-getter social worker that was going to cut through all the red tape and help people through really challenging times in their lives, she was so well-meaning and got me through to a certain extent. And it is absolutely still true that the way I was born and everything that I went through doesn't hold me back. However, there is also the truth that I'm also a human being, and it is so important to understand our own stuff and what we're bringing to that, and that there's also so much strength in looking at our feelings and our emotions and our self-worth, and really acknowledging the parts of us that haven't felt good enough and sort of catching them up and bringing them on the way.
Holly, thank you. First of all, thank you for sharing all of that so candidly and openly. And boy, do we have a lot in common on levels that I didn't even realize when we connected. I also went through a lot of medical challenges as a young child and as a teenager, and had to have corrective surgeries, deformities, and progressive conditions. And it was really, really took a toll on me. But then I also didn't allow it to. I just said, well, I'm going to overcome this. It's not going to hold me back. And the doctor said, well, she can pretty much do whatever she wants. And my mother said, well, will she be able to be a doctor? Because she knew that's what I wanted to do. And they're like, yeah, she'll be able to do that. Well, physically, I was able to do that. And I did pursue it because, again, I also had this drive to help others. And I don't know whether it comes from facing challenges ourselves.
Yeah.
But emotionally, I wasn't prepared for it. And it wasn't a good fit. And I had to push all of that down in order to survive in that environment. And it took a lot of significant personal events and personal tragedy for me to kind of snap out of it and realize, oh boy, I am not, my purpose and my calling is, it's not this. And it's really hard to perhaps acknowledge that and shift gears and switch paths, but we have to find our true selves. And I'm still on that journey, honestly.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a really important message and lesson for folks to hear. If you're listening to the show, if you are, doing things and succeeding and pushing yourself, sometimes the reasons that we do things and that drive us and our resilience, and it's so wonderful. And then sometimes it can actually work against us and we have to go deeper. And I think that can be hard for us. I think it's easier sometimes, not saying medical school and all that was easy, but to study and achieve and push and work and strive, that can be easier than going deep internally and emotionally and healing those very profound wounds that sometimes we carry with us.
Yeah, that's amazing, like the correlation of our stories. And
It's really crazy.
I know it's so cool how the world works, isn't it? It's this
I
way.
always find the right guests for my show,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I want to hear more about what you do with folks to help them on their journey to finding their true self and dismantling the structures you say on in terms of like who we think we are and how do you do that and how does breath come into it? Because I'm really excited to find out.
Yes. Okay, cool. So I would say there's like Holly, like before I discovered breathwork, and then like Holly after I discovered breathwork, because
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. So essentially, don't get me wrong, I love mindset work, right? I go to psychology, I do the journaling, I say the affirmations, I'm constantly looking at my beliefs, and I think that that is all really important. However, before breath work, I feel like I was doing all the things like trying to work on my mindset, trying to work on my beliefs about myself, my internal stories, how I was, my self talk, all those types of things. And it was like I could understand it from a cognitive level. And I was like, yep, this is great. But I just never felt it. Like it would kind of last for a little while, maybe. Like I could sort of talk myself into thinking that, yeah, I'd kind of worked through something. But I also feel like when I was sort of stuck in that mindset phase, that I was creating so much meaning out of everything that then the meaning itself would just then spiral me into something else. So it was just this really, yeah, I guess like prolonged way of working through stuff. And even though, like I said before, I was telling myself all these beautiful stories and things that I wanted to believe, I just never felt it. And
Mm,
then I learned that that is really only probably about 20% of the work, and that we are very conditioned to over identify with our brains and our minds that are beautiful machines and are really helpful. And like I said, it is very important to create meaning and do that mindset work. However, we have so much wisdom and intelligence in our bodies. And that I would say is about 80% of it. And what I learned is that when we work from a bottom up approach, so using our bodies, we can then support our mindset in such a clearer, more profound way. And we just sort of clear out all the fog and the white noise, because often, yeah, our minds have very clever ways of tricking us into
oh
things.
boy. Yeah. Once again, this resonates so deeply. I personally, I do trauma work myself and have a trauma therapist and we do somatic resourcing work. And I had a guest on the show recently, Brittany Piper, who has written a remarkable book called Body First Healing. And in it, she talks about some of the philosophies around somatic work and somatic healing, trauma therapy. Of course, the famous trauma book, The Body Keeps the
Yeah.
Score, and that as humans, we're sort of the only species, the only animal that has a subconscious and a consciousness.
Yes. Yeah.
And we can sort of override a lot of what we feel by
Hmm.
thinking and by thinking too much and overthinking. And we can sort of try to circumvent things. And yes, we can talk about it, we can cognitively address it, and talk therapy is fantastic, don't get me wrong, and mindset work, of course. But if we don't address the body and how things are stored and how things are processed, we're not doing all the work, and it may actually take a lot longer. So yeah,
Hmm.
this is right up my alley.
Yes, that is exactly right. So we have a conscious and a subconscious, and essentially with mindset work and those sorts of things is that like we do have to, I think, really have that work with another person, because the whole idea of a subconscious is that it's something under the surface. It's our blind spot. It's something that we don't see. And those subconscious things are held and stored and informed by the state in our bodies. So essentially, with breath work and other somatic modalities, the most beautiful thing about it that I find is that you don't have to kind of understand or make meaning, or you don't have to have like an awareness or you can have an intention with it, but essentially what it's doing is it's using the breath to move us out of a sympathetic nervous system state or a dorsal-vagal state where either we're in a fight flight response or a freeze or shutdown response. And the way that our society is set up and all of our childhood experiences and then our day-to-day life, oftentimes we're kind of stuck in either of those. And then our outside world also reinforces that being smart and listening to your brain and all those things should be the authority. And we're actually not taught about all these other amazing resources that we have in our body, such as our heart and our breath and our nervous system. And when we use our heart wisdom and our breath and our nervous system, we actually change the internal state that our body's in. And we can learn that we can actually find what's called the parasympathetic nervous system state, which is more about rest, digest, growth, ease, safety. And for me, I think that breath and breath work is the number one most accessible and available tool to us all. And it's just so ironic because it is the number one indicator as well of where we are, like what the state is that we're in. And oftentimes we're over-identifying with the mind and we're getting caught up in all these stories when really if we just focus and check in with our breath and our bodies, it'll tell us where we're at. And a few minutes sitting with that and using our breath and using our bodies can shift us into such a more clear and connected and grounded state. And then our minds are free and open to think really clearly and really expansively, like the ideas that come out of a regulated nervous system and the ability to problem solve and connect with others and all those things is just incredible when we understand that. It's confronting though. It's confronting to think that most of our lives we've just been operating in either like overdrive. That was definitely me. Like I was just
Yeah,
either over functioning in a total stress response the whole time or just completely shut down and disassociating from my
absolutely.
experiences and my emotions. And I think after breath work there was a sort of like catch up time where I felt a little bit of, yeah, I guess sadness to think that, we're not taught this stuff and we don't understand what that safety and that experience can feel like in our bodies. And yeah, I think that
Yeah.
it's just such a beautiful gift.
Yeah, I love all of this. And talk to us a little bit about how breath work and this somatic work. So, somatic, for folks who don't know, is it related
Yes.
to the body.
Yes.
And especially for women who are facing burnout, how can working on breath really help heal the nervous system and support the nervous system?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it's just this beautiful synergy with breath that essentially, it's the first act of trust that we take in this world is to open our lungs. And as babies, when we're first born, it's like that first moment of like trust and stepping into the world and taking this big breath and letting life in. And then, as you said, it's, yeah, the only autonomic function in our bodies that we absolutely don't have to pay attention to. And it will serve us and support us no matter what while we're alive on this earth. However, it is also a bodily function, autonomic function that we can use and have a relationship with. And when we interact with it, it can support us in such a beautiful way. So we can use it so intentionally to shift the state in our bodies. So when we say breath work, essentially what it is, it's a conscious use of our breath in certain patterns and styles or time frames. It shuts down a lot of unnecessary thinking. We're still conscious, but it shifts the level and state of consciousness that we can be in. So the two types of breath work that I sort of work with my clients is the everyday sort of integration of our breath. So that's where we don't really shift the level of consciousness or the state that we're in, but we're just having a lot of breath awareness about what our breath is showing us about where we're at mentally and physically. So for instance, tuning in, oftentimes we're breathing really shallow, like the
Mhm.
upper chest and into our throat. And that shallow breathing is showing us that we're actually in a state of anxiousness or tension or dysregulation in some way. And it also allows us, it gives us the invitation to start consciously using that deeper, more diaphragmic breathing techniques and patterns, just taking a deep breath, really making sure that we're allowing the breath to travel into our belly and into our lungs and sort of reach further parts of our body. And we can do that at any time in the day, like when we're having conversations with people, when we're at work, when we're driving, just having that real breath awareness about, okay, where is my breath sitting in my body right now? And then consciously using that to really fill up a lot more space in our body is such a beautiful invitation, because working with the breath day to day like that, whether or not you're in more of like a dorsal shutdown phase or fight flight response, you don't have to even understand that. It's just having that awareness. The body will naturally sort of bring you down or up into more of a regulated state. So that's just a beautiful practice in everyday, as well as the fact that it's very grounding and it brings you into.
I think I lucked out because starting at a very, very young age, I trained as a classical opera singer,
Oh,
musician. So
yes.
I have been breathing from deep in the diaphragm since I was a little kid. And I
Yeah.
didn't even realize how regulating that could be. But, whenever I've done somatic work and therapy, my therapist's like, you're really good at breathing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I had to be, but thank goodness. Thank goodness I got something going for me there.
Yes.
Really
Yes.
does that deep breathing. So this is it leads us into a great question about what are some signs that someone is disconnected or dysregulated from the breath? So you mentioned they're shallow. So they're breathing from
Yes.
up, like from the neck up rather than from low down in the abdomen and the belly and the diaphragm. And I guess what are some other signs? I mean, breathing quickly, or for me, I know that it was like holding my breath.
Yes. Yep. So oftentimes, when we're stressed, yeah, as you say, there's a lot of tension in the body. We're holding our breath a lot more than we realize, or it may be a lot quicker, mostly shallow. It's interesting because the biggest sign for me is when I'm caught in that sort of frenetic mind state. It's like, it's like blah, 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 blah. It's this is sort of like running. I check in with my breath when I notice that I'm just very connected with this sort of frantic thoughts in my body, in my head, sorry. And yeah, then I bring it down into my body and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Like my breath is really shallow or erratic at the moment. And then I notice the relationship between having more of that deeper, intentional, conscious breathing really does shut down a lot of the unnecessary panic and mind-based thinking that can happen. Using voice and singing is a beautiful way as well, but using things like taking a big deep breath in, and oftentimes, with people when they're in a state of panic or fight or flight, they're sucking the breath in. They're like sucking their tummy in, whereas breath is more about receivership. It's more about opening up and receiving more life and more space and more expansion. And the way that I like to think about that is when you're taking a breath in, your tummy shouldn't be sucking in, it should be actually expanding out.
Yeah, it's the opposite of what most people think.
Yes, and when we're in a state of panic or stress, yes, either we're holding it in and sort of clumping it up near the throat and the upper chest,
Mhm.
or we're really sort of like sucking in the tummy and sort of like panic breathing. And so bringing that more understanding that it's like, okay, we're just opening up or expanding, we're allowing the breath in a bit more, and really just pushing the tummy out to receive the breath in the lower lungs and more parts of the body. So those are some of the signs, and then how to sort of like integrate that. But if you are wanting to go deeper and explore the other side of breathwork, which is also really cool, is doing a longer breathwork journey where I would also recommend being really supported in this, especially at the start, going on like a guided journey, whether that's with a person or a recorded experience. But essentially with this type of breathwork it is a longer intentional breathing in a certain pattern and style, that you are entering into an altered state of consciousness, and you are using the breath in a way to go into like more of a meditation, a journey, a state, again, like it is a parasympathetic nervous system state. So your body opens up, rests, expands, receives, and you in this space can experience a lot of healing, a lot of letting out and releasing of emotions without even having to understand or know or consciously be aware of what those emotions are. The body just does the work for you. So using the breath over that time frame, lying down in a safe and supported environment, is a really, really cool experience as well. Because
Yeah, I have done it a couple of times now, maybe 3 or 4 times, done these guided breathwork experience journeys where they last about 30 to 45 minutes of
yes,
this intentional patterned breathing. And I'm a scientist, I'm a neurologist. I think, "Oh, I don't know, is this gonna
yeah,
really do anything?" It was so incredible. I mean, I guess I have very strong visualization skills, so I just was able to visualize all kinds of things. I was on a journey. I was
yeah,
traveling the world. I was experiencing all kinds of visions and feelings and sounds and things. It was wild what you can achieve through this guided intentional breathing.
mm,
I couldn't get over it. I was like, wow, this is really wild. You do feel really strange, like you're kind of in a different state, you're meditating, but it also just really helps you release things and let go of a lot of tension, a lot of things that we're maybe holding on to. So, yes, I love that recommendation to work with a professional, an expert breathwork practitioner to do a guided journey. Maybe
yes,
start small for some folks
yeah,
who are listening if you haven't done that, to just work on some very basic breathing techniques. So
yes,
maybe you can talk us through one or two now. I know the ones that I teach my folks, but I would love to know which one, like box breathing and
yeah,
4-7-8 breath and things like that. But I would love to know, what are some basic, simple breathing techniques that, let's say, we notice that we're breathing a bit shallow, or we notice that we're holding our breath and we're a little tense, or we've got so much going on, and you want to just take a pause and say, okay, I'm going to do some intentional breathing for a couple of minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, just talk us through a couple of things. And if you're listening to the podcast, if you're driving, obviously maybe don't try this, but otherwise, so
Yeah.
pause it, come back to it. But if you're sitting somewhere where you can practice this, let's all do it together.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to share some just quickly on your point of, about going on those longer journeys. I
Oh
would,
yeah, it was
yeah,
wild.
it is so cool. And I would say it definitely has, for me, condensed like years of therapy, like into a 30-minute breathwork session. So it is amazing that we have this capacity in our bodies to do that. However, with my social work background and my understanding of trauma and being trauma informed, is this concept of titration. So I do think that ultimately it is extremely safe. Like with breath work, the most beautiful thing about it is that we are in control. We are not taking something or doing anything that is not without the consent of our bodies. And we
And yeah,
are,
you can always stop it. You
that's
can always
exactly
pause
right.
it.
Yeah. So
It is sort of self-generated.
that's right.
But
So I
yeah,
do
it can
have
be very intense.
yes, that's right. I do have a foundational belief that it is a very, very safe practice and it is very nurturing and supported. But that being said, titration is really important. So when I work with people, or any recommendation that I have around doing this kind of work, is that, as you said, you start slowly, you
Start small.
allow your body to understand, to then let it give you permission to enter a new level, a new level, a new level. And so I definitely think that there is a lot more awareness and exposure being brought out with breathwork, which is so awesome. But to just throw yourself into it without the support or the understanding,
Yeah.
just be aware that you are in control of your body. Just go slow and steady. Oftentimes, these sort of trends around like this really hard, fast, breathe, 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 like just blow you into hyperventilation. It is a cool experience. However, it actually, the the speed and the depth of your breath does not correlate to the level of transformation and experience. So oftentimes, like even a slower, deeper breath work session is just as beautiful as like a hard and fast kind of experience. And so I think it's understanding that if you are in an over-regulated state, so if you're feeling really anxious and you're in a stress response, doing like a really hard and fast breath work will actually stimulate some of that stress.
Yeah. It's sort of like doing a really hard and fast workout.
That's exactly right. That's
Yeah,
exactly right. So
you're
it's
gonna get more
really,
cortisol.
yeah, that's exactly right. So, and that sending your body into that level of stress is, when it's done at the right time, a very useful thing because it helps to expand our window of tolerance and it releases all this stuff and it is beautiful. But if you're already really overstimulated and heightened, I would say focus on a breath that is a lot more deeper and slower and intentional. And like I said before, taking in like a really nice deep breath into the belly and the chest and the lungs and filling it all up. And then making sure that the exhale is longer than the inhale. And just really exploring the depth and how far in your body can you let that breath sort of travel and go, and having that exhale longer. So beautiful. Again, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth is a more of a grounding, calming, like going to send you into a calmer, regulated state. So if you're anxious or feeling really heightened, I would recommend taking nice big deep breaths into the nose, filling up the belly and the chest and the lungs, and then exhaling through the mouth and making sure, like I said, that exhale is longer. So you can breathe in for 5 and out for 8, or in for 6 and out for 10. So that sort of longer exhale is a really beautiful thing to focus on. And when you're exhaling, releasing, like just envisioning all that anxiety, that stress, that overwhelm, that just releasing with that exhale. So it is a beautiful, I think, thing to think about, receiving with the in-breath and letting go with the exhale. If you're feeling really flat and like a bit more in that shutdown mode and you want to invite more energy into your state, into your experience, more life force, it is really beautiful to do what I call like the triactive breath. So that's mouth breathing. You can do it through your nose as well, but it's like a 3-part breath. So again, probably don't do this when you're driving. So when you're in a safe and supported spot, it's a 3-part breath in through the mouth. So it's like into the belly and the chest first, and then up. So it's like, so belly, chest, lungs.
Out, chest,
Yes,
out through the
exhale.
mouth.
Belly, chest, exhale.
So that's the one that I've learned when I've done these longer sessions. It was
Mhm.
this kind of intense mouth breathing that we
Yeah.
did for like a long period of time. And it was
Yeah.
really great. But so you can just do it for a short period of time,
Yep.
just a
I'm
couple
like
of breaths, and it's kind of invigorating.
3 minutes, like 2 to 3 minutes, put a song on,
Yeah.
you can't mess it up. Like there's no right or wrong. It's your body, it's
Yeah.
your breath,
Go
and it
slower.
is every day is going to be different. Sometimes I can let more breath in than other times, and other times I really just need to be slow and steady and more about that release. So it is this beautiful experience of like understanding what does it feel like in your body, and that's where that breath awareness every day, those moments in when you're driving, when you're cooking dinner, that kind of thing, starting to build that relationship with your breath and go, where is it? Where is it traveling? How is it feeding my body? Where am I breathing into right now? And really focusing on just having that more of awareness and understanding of your breath, so that when you do sit down to do a breath work, you're just more easily connected with it. The other thing I really love to do is a lot of like heart-based breathing. So breathing in through your nose or your mouth and then circulating it through your heart space. So like envisioning filling up your heart, and then obviously sending that down into your belly and your lower lungs, and then circulating the breath back up through the heart space and out through the mouth. So this heart coherence breath is just so beautiful and you can picture a color or a beautiful feeling, and just feeling gratitude in your body and letting the breath just travel that gratitude through your body is a really beautiful experience too.
This is so wonderful. This has been so great. I love practicing the breathing, and
Yeah.
hopefully folks are getting a couple of tips that they can use at home that are
Yeah.
simple, that are easy to practice. One final question I guess that I had is, what advice would you give to women who are listening who feel perhaps stuck in old identities and old stories that they're telling themselves, and they
Yeah.
haven't quite managed to connect with their true self or their true identity?
Yeah, and I love that question, and I think I also want to acknowledge that I didn't really link it to burnout last time when I answered the question. So I guess for me, like understanding burnout and wanting to, open up to a different way of being and a different way of feeling in your life and a new identity is that burnout is not about necessarily doing too much. Like I think there are seasons of our life where we're mums and we have jobs and we're business owners and we're friends and all that kind of stuff. It's more about how we're doing things and understanding that, yes, sometimes we need to offload our calendars and things like that. But if you are really busy, it doesn't mean that it has to be in a state of burnout all the time and exhaustion and all those types of things. It's more just about, like I said, the intention of how you're doing things and understanding that as well. Oftentimes we're in environments and systems in our workplaces or our culture and society where burnout is a symptom of being overworked and
Yeah.
underappreciated and all those types of
Yep.
things. And I'm certainly not saying that it's only the individual's responsibility to just overcome that. I do think there is a lot of work to be done, especially like coming from social work and working in hospitals and those busy environments. Like,
Yeah.
yes, the system is broken and we're not putting blame on you guys as individuals. But I do think that while we address the system and we advocate for better conditions and understanding of workplaces and all those things, while we do all that beautiful change work, we can also resource ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that for any woman who is feeling stuck in burnout, maybe, yes, maybe your career does need a change. Maybe your environment is a large part of the problem. But while you're navigating those changes and understanding where your next step is or how you can sort of do more of those practical external things in your world to make you feel more supported and less burnt out, having a day-to-day practice with checking in with yourself. Like I said, your breath is a beautiful excuse and invitation to do that when no one is too busy for 5 minutes in the morning, putting your hand on your heart and just telling yourself something really supportive, something really grounding and beautiful, and just checking in with, who do I want to be today and how can I invite more of that in every moment, like those micro moments and those small little things around feeling gratitude for having that 5 minutes before your kids wake up and the schedule starts and all those types of things. It's just like 5 minutes, like might not seem like a lot, but it actually is going to shift and inform how you approach the rest of your day and the situations that the rest of your day have. And it will resource you and it will ground you and it will allow you to feel even closer to, like that future you, and allow you to show up in ways where you can advocate for yourself and change whatever needs to change in your external environment. But it has to absolutely start from within you.
Beautiful. This has been such a wonderful and enriching conversation. So
Yeah,
thank you so much, Holly,
that's
for
okay.
sharing your powerful story, your wisdom, and all of detail and richness about the healing potential of breath work. If folks want to learn more or if they want to connect with you directly, what should they do to head to your website or head to your social media? Let us know all the things. We'll, of course, put them in the show notes, but
Yeah, thank you so much. Look, I don't like feeling overwhelmed, so I mostly just hang out on Instagram because there's a million platforms and a million ways, but for me, it's simplicity. Instagram is the best place to come and see what's happening in my world. If you want to, experience some breath work or get to know me even more, I would love to hear from you and love to hear what your takeaways were. My Instagram is at Holes Denton, HOLLSDENTON. So I'll see you there.
Perfect. So, yes, if you enjoyed this episode and it spoke to you, don't forget to subscribe to the show. Share it with a friend. This is a really shareable one. If you have a friend who is always stressed out and doesn't take a moment for themselves to breathe, send them this episode. And we would love it if you would leave us a review. It really does help the show reach even more women who are ready to outsmart burnout. So until next time, remember, burnout is not your destiny. It's your wake-up call.